Oh wow, we have some breaking news. It turns out that if you deport all your farm workers, nobody's around to pick your crops.
Trump deported? Y'all should be proud. Cause Trump just said on Fox Live and said the quiet part out loud. Trump just said, I kicked all of them out too fast. We thought once we kicked them out, all the people in urban communities, aka black people, was gonna get back in these fields. I know goddamn well Trump didn't think that we was finna get back in the motherfucking fields. So Trump gonna get his ass on goddamn TV talking about he prematurely deported the illegals that was working in the farms.
In breaking news, Brooke Reynolds, the agricultural secretary, said we have to combat the lack of migrant workers by hiring migrant workers. So after the immense push for deportation raids on construction and farms and whatnot, it's now led to a financial crisis, especially for farmers. And the answer, according to the United States government, is to hire migrant workers.
Now Cheeto Puff is saying that he want to bring the immigrants back to the United States because the inner city people, us, are not getting in the field like he thought that we were going to. Y'all really voted for that big soggy Cheeto Puff to sit up here and play Jeopardy with our lives? He is literally playing Jeopardy with the American lives, and y'all sat there and voted for that.
Donald Trump, not in these exact words, but basically admitted this week that a lot of the things that he's been doing, a lot of the policies, a lot of the executive orders that he's been signing off on was all made with the intention of getting black people back into the field. It was made with the intention of getting black people back into the field. Situation with the deportations, migrant workers, the state of America's agriculture, and he made comments on inner city people not doing farm work. I want you to always remember that when they mention inner city, that means black. In Donald Trump's exact words, people that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They've tried. We've tried. Everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. They don't get a bad back because if they get a bad back, they die. He also went on to say that they are very, very, very special people and they cannot be easily replaced.
I just said, I kicked all of them out too fast. We thought once we kicked them out, all the people in urban communities, aka black people, was gonna get back in these fields. Trump, what the hell you thought this was? Selma? Hell no, we ain't doing that. Nigga, we'll sell t-shirts on our truck before we do that. I hope that wasn't part of the game plan originally. Trump said, listen, we gotta get some of the people that we kicked out the country back. We gotta get them back legally. We'll give them their papers and all. We ain't got no damn farmers. You didn't think about this before you kicked them out? Huh? Listen, the last people who were doing that, their last name was Tubman and shit like that. We ain't into that no more. We got black businesses. We'll figure it out here. Okay, we'll buy a couple stamps. We ain't doing that. Listen, to all the African people, Haitian, Spanish, whoever got kicked out of the country, even people who was doing good in their country in England and British people, listen, he needs y'all back. He ain't think about it. This is your time to get your paperwork together and come back legally so that way nobody can mess with y'all for generations to come, okay? Trump said, listen, I thought about it. I kicked y'all out, but our economy wasn't ready for that. The economy said, "Oh, wait a minute, nigga. Oh, this ain't that type of party." Okay, so now he's working on getting back. Now Trump did say some wild stuff about he asked some farmers, what happened if they back break. I'm not even repeating that whole joke because it's kind of crazy. But Trump, I don't think nobody proofread what he got to say. I don't think he read none of this stuff that they tell him to say. I think he just say whatever come to mind. Listen. Trump said he got to get the illegals back so they can be legal, okay? I'm just here to bring y'all the news. I'm just a messenger.
Donald Trump has backtracked, and he has essentially admitted that we need immigrants here in the United States of America. Okay, so in a press conference, this man says, y'all, racism is so expensive. This man says, basically that farmers are suffering because they don't have workers, and people in the inner city are not going to take those jobs. And we know how to dissect what he said. Essentially,
hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Furaha, and on today's video we are going to discuss an issue that is familiar, and we're talking about the mass deportation of undocumented immigrants. Now guys, when these things were happening, you knew about it and you heard about it, and for many of the black people and anyone that is paying mind to whatever is happening in America, they knew that was a wrong move for America. And when we're talking about America, we're talking about the economic situation and the things that would happen and affect the people of America. Now, for those that were, talking about the undocumented immigrants being, taking black people's jobs, those were all moves to make sure that, when the illegal immigrants leave, then the black people, the black community, and all the other immigrants were going to take up the job. That was the plan from the very beginning. They did not voice it, they did not say it out loud that this is what they think, but, you can easily pick right now that that is what they were aiming at. They thought that when these undocumented immigrants leave, the black people were going to, and also they put a lot of measures in place to make sure that black people were really in a tight spot where they do not have enough money, they cannot afford a lot of these things that they need, basic things that they need, for example, medical stuff and food. Now, they have made things so hard in America that everyone is feeling the pressure. Life has become so expensive and people can barely even afford housing, they can barely afford food. Their main intention of getting rid of the undocumented immigrants was to now create room so that the black people would go and work for the white farmers. And these are things that black people already knew about, and when you have been taken advantage of so many times, you are vigilant, you are always watching, and you are careful that things don't find you not ready or not prepared. Now, the black people knew that they were not going to do those jobs. They warned America, they warned the white people, they warned the farmers that they were not going to take up those jobs. One, low pay, and two, the way that they treat those people, it's not something you would want to put yourself in. Now guys, there's a lot that is going to be in this video, so let me not say so much. Kindly subscribe to my channel and let's watch the video.
They marketed their campaign as, oh, we're taking back our jobs, we're taking back our jobs, and they thought the legal people of color were going to go take those jobs. He essentially said the black and brown people in the inner city are not going to take those farm jobs. No. And those undocumented immigrants who are working those jobs, that was their only option to make money in this country. They left, some of them left dangerous countries. They wanted better lives for their children, better education. They just wanted a better life overall. And so they took what they could. And those jobs were modern day slavery, okay? Those people were freaking working 7 days a week, 10-hour days for like $10 an hour in the hot sun, picking fruit. And you thought those people aren't doing that because they think that that's a good pay. And you thought, people who are legal citizens were gonna go do that. You could make more money at McDonald's or fast food. I would join the military before I did that, to be honest. And what I peeped about these businesses that used to employ undocumented workers, like farmers, some construction companies, other small businesses, they can't even afford to pay more than what they were paying. Y'all can't even afford to pay really a livable wage, a wage that somebody who is a citizen would accept for the type of work that you're asking for, but you voted against your own interest. I hope that, all of these undocumented immigrants who are gonna make their way back, I hope they realize you have power. And right now, the power is in your hands. And don't go back for the pennies, okay? You have a lot of leverage right now. You have a lot of leverage right now. And y'all, like I said, being racist is so expensive.
What?
We have some big news right now. The Trump administration is now turning to migrant farm workers to address farm labor shortages, according to the New York Times. No, I'm not making this up. After conducting mass deportation of said migrant farm workers at the beginning of his second term, they're now trying to get them back, essentially. So the Trump administration is now turning to an alternative source, making it cheaper for farmers to hire immigrant farm workers on temporary visas. These changes specifically impact the H-2A visa program. And under the new changes, the Trump administration, has now adjusted how wages paid to H-2A farm workers are calculated, essentially lowering the hourly rates anywhere from $1 to $7 in some states. And farm owners can now include housing as part of the compensation package provided to guest farm workers. They're reducing wages of farm workers in an effort to try to hire more migrant farm workers. That's brought a lawsuit from the Farm Workers of America saying that essentially it adversely harms American farm workers by lowering their wages or pushing them out of the labor pool entirely.
That's called sharecropping. y'all don't know what sharecropping is, sharecropping was a post-Civil War agricultural system in the U.S. South where landowners allowed tenants, primarily former enslaved black people and poor whites, to use land in exchange for a share of the crops produced. It replaced slavery but trapped many in a cycle of poverty and debt slavery. The arrangement, landowners provided land, housing, tools, seed, and supplies while tenants provided the labor. Tenants often had to purchase necessities like food and clothing on credit from the landowner at a high interest rates, using their future crops as collateral. Slavery under another name. High interest rates and low crop prices often meant workers never cleared their debt, forcing them to remain on the land year after year. It's an old playbook, but they revamped it and changed some of the characters. You did this whole thing mass deporting all of these migrant workers. So now they don't want to go to work because they're afraid that if they go to work, here comes your Gestapo. Now you're telling them, those who have left, come back under this visa. We gonna pay you $1 to $7 below the minimum below the minimum wage in America. The farmers get to pay you between $1 and $7 a fucking hour, and they may or may not give you housing. But I'm sure if they give you housing, they're gonna take that off of your pay. Sharecropping. Food? You need food? No problem. We'll give you $50 to go get groceries, but you gotta work 100 hours to pay us back. This is the same fucking shit. Oh my God. When will you guys listen to black people? When will you study what black people have been studying? We know the colonizers. They're using the same playbook. They're changing the characters, changing up the wording, but it's the same shit they've been doing to black people forever in this country. And for some reason, y'all just won't listen to black people. This is the same thing. This is called sharecropping. Wow.
Donald Trump has now privately admitted that his mass deportation policies have gone too far, and he wants Republicans to stop talking about them. Now, let's be clear about something. Donald Trump doesn't think they went too far because they're inhumane and they've hurt families and ripped them apart. He thinks they went too far because voters don't like it and his approval rating has gone down. In conversations with top advisors and his wife Melania, who is an immigrant, fun fact, Trump has become convinced that some of his administration's deportation policies have gone too far and voters don't like the term mass deportation. The president has told them he wants to see more attention on arresting bad guys and less chaos in American cities. The desire for an immigration reset is being driven by Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, who believes the president's immigration team has turned one of his biggest issues into more of a challenging one ahead of the midterms. So once again, it's all for political reasons. They're not pulling back because it's the right thing to do. They're doing it because the midterms are right around the corner and voters hate Donald Trump. But I'm not really holding my breath that anything's going to change. I mean, they might change the way they talk about it, but the actions of ICE, the Department of Homeland Security, all that stuff, yeah, I don't see that slowing down. I mean, it's Donald Trump after all.
Donald Trump started pushing this narrative that white South Africans were super oppressed and were being violently attacked and their farms were being robbed and taken over by black people. And because he said that, he needed people to buy into his political publicity stunt. And so he told white Africans that they could move to the United States and become citizens. And he did just that. He brought thousands over. These people denounced their South African citizenship to take American citizenship. And now they're realizing that America is filled with guns and violence, and they want to go home. You think I'm kidding? Thousands have already asked their government of South Africa to take them back. And the government of South Africa has a backlog of people trying to come back home. This reminds me of the time when Donald Trump sent a violent militia out into the streets of America to round up the brown people, the worst of the worst, and all he ended up doing was arresting people who were working in fields with legitimate work visas, arresting people who were here on legitimate asylum claims, only to turn around and say, oh shit, I kind of screwed over all the farmers, the people who voted for me. And now he's begging those who were able to leave without getting arrested and detained to please come back and work in our fields because the fat, sloppy white Americans are too lazy to do the job you've been doing this whole time. Wow.
What else can we help you with now that we took care of the immigration issue? Can you bring them back? What? We need more workers. Apparently Americans don't want to do the jobs that immigrants were doing. But you've already spent billions on deporting them. It costs $18,000 to deport one person. Dang. Appreciate you paying taxes. So how much does it cost to undeport? That's not possible. Well, you gotta do something. There's a labor shortage. Okay, I guess we can make it easier for immigrants to come work here with the H-2A visa. That was an option? Yeah, but it will cause more immigrants to come into the U.S., allow us to exploit workers and lower wages for American workers. Why don't you just legalize the undocumented immigrants that are already here? That way they can work and pay taxes legally. We obviously need them, because then we wouldn't be able to blame immigrants for everything. Also, ICE detention centers are making hundreds of millions in profit. It's a big business. Things haven't gotten cheaper since these mass deportations started, now that I think about it. Matter of fact, everything's gotten more expensive. Just be thankful you have a job. You're welcome. Actually, I just filed for bankruptcy. Oh, you're still my guy though. Make farmers great again.
Now Cheeto Puff is saying that he want to bring the immigrants back to the United States because the inner city people, us, are not getting in the field like he thought that we were going to. Y'all really voted for that big soggy Cheeto Puff to sit up here and play Jeopardy with our lives? He is literally playing Jeopardy with the American lives, and y'all sat there and voted for that. What did this man really think was getting ready to happen? You gathering up people to go snatch people off the streets, taking them out the fields. Now stuff starting to fall, produce not being produced. Now you want to bring them back. You're going to have to pay them to bring them back. Do you know how you embarrass them folks, snatching them off the streets, throwing them in vans, throwing them in cars, putting stuff over their head? They don't know where they're going, throwing them in these camps, mistreating them, and now you want to bring them back? This is your president, right?
We have an agriculture labor shortage, but don't you worry, President Trump has a solution. New reports are indicating that the Trump administration is considering expanding migrant farm worker programs, and this comes after ICE aggressively detained and deported a lot of farm workers. And even though these Mexicans were stealing their jobs, nobody's stepping up to take these jobs. Now we have an agriculture labor shortage. Kind of like the Bracero program repeating itself all over again. Now, this discussion surfaced during policy meetings in Washington, D.C., and that's where federal officials and agriculture leaders warned that farms across the country are struggling to find workers, in particular for planting and harvesting. Shocker, right? And right now, 4 states are feeling the shortage: California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. So, like the Bracero program, where the United States government went into Mexico to seek workers, the Trump administration is thinking of doing the same thing with H-2A visas. Now, while many people are like, well, that's a legal way to do it, you forget that ICE was still detaining and deporting people who were here legally with legal, legit visas, which the H-2A is a visa. And they were also deporting people with H-2A visas and just canceling their visas because they felt like it. I think Trump's friends, who are all farm owners, began complaining to Trump about their shortage because nobody is going to work these really hard jobs. And if they do, they're not fast, accurate, and motivated the way the people that got deported were. Ironic, isn't it? But it's like we warned everybody this was going to happen. We saw this happen back in the 1920s with the Mexican Reparation Act, and then with Operation WET, BACK. And each time they had to go get people from Mexico to come back into the United States to work because Americans weren't doing that job, even though, you know, Mexicans were stealing their jobs. But let me know what you think in the comments below.
Racism is very expensive, and it rarely ever benefits anyone in the nation to enact racist policies, racist laws, or operate from a racist point of view. The Trump administration is currently looking to address the farm worker shortage in America by allowing farmers to bring back migrant workers. You heard that correctly. The same migrant workers that the Trump administration were harassing, rounding up, putting in detention centers, and going and raiding farms last year. Well, he says that we need to bring them back. It's almost as if they were functioning members of society that were contributing to the overall sustainability economy and access to this country. This is happening because Donald Trump's administration, they said that if we deport all migrant workers, there will be more jobs for Americans. The job market will be 100% American, and people will have higher wages. What has happened? Most Americans do not want to work on farms, especially young ones, and that's always been the case for this country. And those farmers who are here are old, and a lot of other people are just too scared to go to work. So they are augmenting their visa programs with the H-2A visa program. This is so crazy for several reasons. It's because, like, This was always what migrant workers did. The farmers, those people who worked, they paid taxes. They never even received benefits from the taxes they paid into the economy, and they allowed people to have access to fresh foods and access to goods in this country. Now the administration quietly is admitting that they're wrong. They'll never make a public declaration of this, but this is why we say racism is expensive. Happy Sunday.
Oh wow, we have some breaking news. It turns out that if you deport all your farm workers, nobody's around to pick your crops. Groundbreaking stuff. This New York Times article by Linda Chu reports that the Trump administration, you know, the same people who promised a 100% American workforce with higher wages and better benefits, just quietly filed government paperwork admitting their crackdown is causing, and I quote, significant disruptions to production costs, threatening the stability of domestic food production. They wrote that with their hands and submitted it to the federal government. So what's the master plan? Now, stay with me here. Their plan is to bring the immigrant workers back. You know, the ones that they just deported, except this time they're going to pay them less, because in 2025, out of more than 400,000 farm job postings that legally required an American applicant first, 182 Americans applied. 182. And a farmer in Colorado said it so the rest of us didn't have to. We can't farm without going back to guest workers. Going back. Billions spent, families destroyed, people died, and the conclusion after all of that is, okay, fine, we need them, but let's slash their pay by up to $7 an hour and make them live in employer-owned housing. A New York Times journalist called it exactly what it is, indentured service. That's the 100% American workforce they promised you. Receipts, not speculation.
You truly cannot make this stuff up, bro. To address farm labor shortage, Trump administration turns to migrant workers. Not a headline that I would really expect to see, right? But it turns out that because there is a labor shortage in the agricultural sector here in the US, aka farm workers mostly, the Trump administration has just made it cheaper for American farmers to sponsor and hire H-2A agricultural workers. For those of you guys that do not know what H-2A is, it is a temporary work visa program. Yes, you heard that right. Visa program under this administration that they're facilitating, so American farmers can basically hire folks from other countries that want to come work in their farms here in the US temporarily. Of course, there's a shortage because number one, the immigration raids and Trump's overall immigration policy has scared people away from working on many of these farms, right? But number two, we know that most natural-born American citizens that claim to be the most hardworking, those that claim we're stealing their jobs, would never work. These extremely difficult, extremely demanding, and extremely important jobs that keep the US economy running and keep you and me fed with groceries in our stores. So to help alleviate this labor shortage, this administration has adjusted how wages are paid to H-2A farm workers, right? Lowering them between $1 and $7 depending on the state. Farm owners can now also include housing as part of the compensation package they provide to guest farm workers. Many farmers have celebrated those changes made to an increasingly popular visa program, as I told you guys, H-2A, noting the difficulty in hiring American workers and tough economic conditions for the industry. Now, it's important to note that the United Farm Workers of America have filed a lawsuit against the administration for this reduction in wages of H-2A workers. They argue that the rule will adversely harm American farm workers by lowering their wages as well as pushing them out of the labor force entirely. And it is true that the H-2A program has historically had issues with exploitation, human trafficking, labor trafficking, all that stuff. But many people from places like Mexico, Central America, Jamaica, a lot of different countries take that chance and they enter this program to come work in the US temporarily because they earn their income, even if it's lower, in US dollars, and then that translates to more money in their national currency, right? Isn't it crazy how they love us for our labor? They love Latinos for their labor. They love immigrants from other countries for their labor, but they don't love them for anything else. God forbid you give them any kind of permanent legal status to be dignified in this country. All while you brutalize us on the streets, racially profile us, jail us, deport us, do all kinds of abhorrent things to our community. Donald Trump es un descarado.
Listen, your president, not mine, has decided that he is going to reverse this whole deportation situation and is
suggesting that people come back to America to work these farms and everything. Not saying sorry, not acknowledging that what he did was probably one of the most horrific things you could do to people and families, children, tearing families apart or anything. No, he is basically saying that, the farmers here need help. And so they're going to educate them, get them legally sent back to this country to do the work that he thought the folks in the inner city would have been able to do. Clearly, if you read between those lines, he thought that black people were going to get out in these fields and do the work that the folks that he deported would have done. And to that I say, sir, you are so detached from the people that it is pathetic at this point. How in the hell did you think that black people were going to get in the fields and do that work? Like, is anyone like consulting with you? I'm being so serious, y'all, because it's like, sir, most black people are established in some way, which speaks to the lack of understanding and knowledge and whatever else you want to say as it relates to black people and understanding the progression of black people in this country. Not everybody's waiting for some handout and, oh yeah, I'll go work those fields. You're smoking something, sir. And it's not good. It's not good. So yeah, that's your president.
About targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business.
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look and people they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else, and then you're supposed to throw them out, and you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers, and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
I know Donald Trump ain't regretting deportation, huh? Wait a minute, did I read that right? Did I hear that right? Come on, sip a little tea with Auntie, let's talk about it. So you regretting deportation. You went around and had ICE snatch them people clean about the fields, arrested them, took them to countries that wasn't even their own original countries, and put them in camps that look like concentration camps. For what? Did you think you had another race that you can pop into those jobs? Did you think you can pay another race as little as you were paying those people from other countries who were here illegally? That's what you thought. You thought if you put the pressure, jack the prices up of everything, make it high, make people around here struggle, that you was going to have a certain race that would run to those jobs. I bet you I know which race you thought it was going to be. I ain't going to take it there, but y'all know. But see, Dino, let me put you up on something. Our ancestors, were forced to be in those fields. Our ancestors lack knowledge. They were unable to go to school and be educated and learn how to read, learn how to count, learn anything about handling business. They were forced. They were just tossed there, told whatever, and they had to do it. Then shout out to our ancestors. Shout out to all the people who fought to give us equal right, fought fought for to give us education, fought to give us our own mind, fought so we can go to school and learn business, fought to just simply teach us 1 + 1 = 2. We are not our ancestors. We are not our ancestors. Do you hear me? Dino. Boy, you if FAFO ain't just, circling around the White House right now, you done fucked around and found out, didn't you?
So Donald Trump, not in these exact words, but basically admitted this week that a lot of the things that he's been doing, a lot of the policies, a lot of the executive orders that he's been signing off on was all made with the intention of getting black people back into the field. It was made with the intention of getting black people back into the field. All right, so on Tuesday, Donald Trump made an appearance, right, on CNBC's Squawk Box. And on that platform, he actually made a lot of commentary in regards to the situation with the deportations, migrant workers, the state of America's agriculture, and he made comments on inner city people not doing farm work. I want you to always remember that when they mention inner city, that means black. In Donald Trump's exact words, people that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They've tried. We've tried. Everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. They don't get a bad back because if they get a bad back, they die. He also went on to say that they are very, very, very special people and they cannot be easily replaced. Remember what I said, anytime that they mention the words inner city people, inner city communities, inner city neighborhoods, that's black. That's code for black. Blackity black, okay? Black people. And it is because of that exact commentary that it reconfirms for me, okay? Not confirms, but reconfirms, meaning that I already knew. But it reconfirms that the plan from the very beginning with these executive orders, right, was to further destabilize black communities, further destabilize poor communities, but black mainly, so that you could put pressure on these communities so that you could get them to go back into the field, right? And then once you get them back in the field, bingo, you've made America great again. Modernize slavery. But black people said, fuck you and this little game that you want to play. Since we are the most valuable player on the scoreboard, we will remove ourselves and let's see if this game is still going to continue. And that's in fact what we're seeing right now. Donald Trump thought that by forcing all of these other people out, taking away our Medicaid, doing all of these things to further destabilize our community, that we would conform, that we would just do what he wants us to do, what the whites of this world, what white supremacy wants us to do. But black people decided to pull a Uno reverse and they did nothing, which is something that they're not used to black people doing. They're used to black people having this spirit of rebellion, having this spirit of revolution. But instead, black people decided that, you know what? I'm going to preserve my energy for me and my people, but I'm also going to remove myself from this game entirely. And now everything is starting to crumble. The way that the America agriculture is taking a huge hit right now because of Donald Trump and his deportations. Like, I don't think that you understand how much America survives off of the labor of undocumented workers. And when I say y'all, I mean all the other races. Black people knew, because black people were telling you. They told you, don't do this. Don't do this, because we're not going back in the field. Don't do this, but y'all didn't listen. And just to put into retrospect of how important undocumented migrant workers are to the agriculture economy here in America, the U.S. Department of Agriculture reports that roughly 42% of crop workers are undocumented, with nearly 70% being foreign-born. This labor is essential in states like California and Texas, where up to 80% of farm workers lack legal status. Donald Trump signed off on a lot of these executive orders back in January. It is now August, and in between that time, he has done a parade of chaotic shit, trying to put pressure on the black community, but the black community has refused to fold. They have not folded. And it's not just the black community, but the legal Hispanic community here, the legal Latinos here, the Browns, and every other race that sees what this administration has been trying to do from the very beginning. They have not folded. And because of that, everything that he has signed off on in January is starting to bite him in the ass in August. And to all of you people out there that had so much to say in regards to the Black community and the 92% and them actually deciding to stand down and not participate, to not get involved, to protect their peace, all of the critiques that you had on their decision, let this be your example. Let this be your primary example as to why you should stay the fuck out of Black people business. Stay the fuck out of Black people business. You had so much to say in regards to our decision and wanting to stand the fuck back and deciding to remove ourselves from this entire game altogether, right? Now, you see that Black people actually knew what the fuck they were doing.
So guys, you have watched the video and now you totally understand what I was speaking about in the beginning when I was starting the video. Now, this is the issue that is pressing America at the moment. White farmers are in a place where they're very uncomfortable, they're making losses, there's a lot of things that are going wrong in those farms of theirs, and they have come to a realization that the mass deportation was the worst decision ever. And now they're regretting, they were the ones who were talking to Trump and, suggesting these things. But now that it's affecting them, they are coming out regretting, the failures that are on their farms. They expected that the Black people, the Black community, and the other immigrants were going to run and take up those jobs, the farms. And without really paying attention to the fact that these people that you want to go work on your farms, they know the system, they know what America has been doing to the undocumented immigrants, they know the kind of pay that those people have been subjected to, the kind of harsh treatment they have been subjected to. And that is not something that someone willingly wants to put themselves through. Those undocumented immigrants, it's not like they did not know that they were being taken advantage of. They knew, but they had way too many problems that for them, that low pay, that harsh treatment, that bad condition at the working place was far much better than going back home, because home they do not have any work opportunities or anything really that they can do. Now, for Trump to really sit and think that Black people were going to rush to those jobs because he has made life so difficult, it's very funny of him to think, because Black people have always voiced it. They have always said it out loud. Black people are not the kind of people that will have those small talks and like be hideous about it. Black people have talked about it and said it out loud that they were not going to take up those jobs. They were not going to work on white people farms. They were not going to be used by the white people to their own advantage. Now, the white people had a plan. They were going to make life so hard, and especially for Black people, they were going to make everything so damn expensive. They were going to make sure that their health care plan is interrupted with. If you're talking about food stamps, they were just interrupting about everything. Groceries super expensive, housing super expensive. People can barely afford to live. And they knew that the people who would be affected more were not the white people per se. It was going to be the Black people and the other immigrants from the other countries. Now, to their shock and surprise, Black people and the other immigrants have said they are not going to work on their farms. And it's now been a while since they did the mass deportation and spent lots and lots of money on that issue. And once those people were deported and Black people did not turn up to take the jobs, and the farmers are experiencing a very rough time, they're making a lot of losses, they can barely harvest their crops, and it's now becoming a burden to them, and they are urging Trump to make sure that he does something about it, because whatever plan they had is not what is happening on the ground as we speak. Black people have made a deliberate decision to not cooperate, and they're not going to do it anytime soon. So the white people have now realized that Black people are serious about this, and for that reason they are now trying to act nice. You can see the video where Trump is talking about those people who are important, and that's weird. They were important, and then why were you thinking of deporting them? They were deporting them because they thought those people were useless, and they did not think of how that is going to affect them, because they were talking about they are undocumented, so they were doing it to punish those people and the many others that were willing to come work for America. After they have done that and realized that all this is going really south very fast, they are now talking about reconsidering those people coming back to America under the visa that you've had on the video. And to even make the matter really funny, I would say, because this is really a lot of crap going on. To make it even worse, they have now decided to pay them even lower than they used to pay them before, and that is ranging between $1 to $7 an hour. And that is the kind of wage that you want someone to willingly leave their country and come work for you, and realizing the fact that those works, the jobs at the farms are not easy things to do. It's not a child's play. Working on the farm is a serious job, and it needs a lot of energy. It needs a lot of work ethic. It needs a lot of people that are willing, people that really need the job. And they thought that that was going to be easy. They have always called black people lazy, and I wonder why it's now so hard for them to prove the way they are hardworking. One of the ways they can prove to black people and the whole world that they are actually the hardworking ones is for them to go back to their farms, the white people, to go to their farms and work there, do everything that the immigrants have been doing, do everything that some of the black people have been doing, do the things that this enslaved black people used to do. It is now their chance to prove that, and guess what? They're not going on the farms. They're urging President Trump to make sure that he brings back the illegal immigrants. They are trying to force the black people, the black community, into working for them as slaves on their farms. Now, this is the way to go for black people. Realizing that you're very important, realizing that you can determine the continuity of America. For example, the undocumented immigrants who just left the country. It is now time for them to realize how important they are and add tax to their own selves, for them to not accept that kind of low pay, to not accept that kind of living condition, harsh living conditions, harsh working conditions, for them to realize that they are that important to America and the whole of the American working systems, especially the economics of it. It is time for them to shine, If they are coming back to America, they should come back on their own terms. They should put it out there that they're not going to do that kind of work that they have been doing in the past, where they're being discriminated upon, being mistreated left, right, and center, and just enduring it because they needed the money. Now that America is falling apart and they're realizing that they really needed those people, and they did not know at that time when they were making those kind of stupid decisions, now they have come to terms with the fact that they need them. And they're even afraid to say it out loud. So they're making it look like they're feeling sorry for them, they have families to feed and whatever. Just a narrative to make those people to come back thinking that they are now valued a little bit. Do not be lied to. If you have friends that were deported, talk to them, make them understand how important they are, that if they decide to come back, they should come back here on their own terms. Guys, I will see you on my next video, and please leave a comment on what you think about this video. If you have not subscribed to my channel, kindly consider doing that right now. And returning subscribers, thank you so much for always choosing to be here and being part of this amazing family. I will see you on my next one. Bye for now.